It's Radio Free 501c, the podcast of Rogue Tulips Consulting. I'm your host, Cecilia Sapp, and we're so excited to be back for Season 6 and continue bringing you outstanding ideas and thought leaders and different ways of thinking. So don't forget to subscribe because you're not going to want to miss any of it. This week, I'm joined by first-time guest Matty Rubenstein. He has a lot of experience in association management, especially with conferences, so he's sharing his insights on legacy conferencing and how we can make a bigger impact. Welcome to episode 247. Hey everybody, it's Monday, July 22nd, and that means it's time for another episode of Radio Free 501c, brought to you by Rogue Tulips Consulting. As always, I'm here as your host, Cecilia Sapp. I'm the principal and founder of Rogue Tulips Consulting, and I am still a CAE and ACNP. So thanks for joining us this week. We are so excited to have so many first-time guests this year, and we have another first-time guest on this episode. But before I introduce my guest, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to our global audience, wherever you may be. And thanks again for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe or follow us on your favorite podcast service so you don't miss any of our exciting conversations. So this week, I am pleased to welcome Matty Rubenstein, and we are here to talk about legacy conferencing, which is a really important topic. And legacy and what we're leaving behind is becoming an increasing piece of conversation within the nonprofit management profession. So before we jump into the conversation, welcome, Matty. And would you like to say hello to the audience and tell us a little about yourself?
Thank you very much, Cecilia, and hello to everybody out there. My name's Matty Rubenstein. I'm a consultant for Now What Consulting, and I've been in the association space for about 15 years. And primarily, I've been working with large associations, doing strategy across pretty much all association verticals, working with senior executives, C-suite, and EDs. And during my time in these associations, I've been exposed to something called legacy conferencing. And that's what we're going to talk about today.
Yes, and it is a great topic. And by the way, as somebody who also has an unusual company name, kudos on Now What Consulting. I love that because I feel that's how a lot of people feel when they're facing a problem or a question in whatever situation. Now what? Now what do we do? So I love that name. And I think it's very appropriate for nonprofit organizations because their day is constantly shifting like any other organization. So, but let's talk about this legacy conferencing topic because so many nonprofit organizations offer conferences or meetings of some kind, no matter what kind of nonprofit you are. So let's start off. Could you explain, Matty, what is legacy conferencing?
So what I think a nice question to ask is, when you had your conference and you brought together, several hundred, several thousand of your members all in one place at one time, what did they achieve? What did they do? And more so, you're seeing today a bit of a change even in tourism. You have certainly areas of Spain who have said, we don't want tourists anymore. They don't bring anything. We don't want you to come here and just look and eat ice cream. If you're going to come, do something. So when you put those two thoughts together and you say, okay, what about bringing a couple of thousand professionals to a particular destination? How can they leave a mark on that destination at their highest level? What's the legacy that they can leave behind? Legacy is often used to describe something that is old and is being sunset. Here, what we're talking about is leaving your legacy in a place so that they remember when you came. And that's the basis of legacy conferencing.
So don't just come to our city, go to our convention center, and maybe eat at a few restaurants. Do something helpful that contributes. So what are some examples of that?
So there's a very classic example that is brought, and it's quite an unusual one. And I'm going to be upfront and say that it's probably bigger than anything else that'll ever happen ever. but there was a lot of serendipity that took place. But the European radiologists decided that they wanted to contribute more to a destination, but as I said, at their highest level. Now, it doesn't mean they're going to raise a bit of money or they're going to, do some bake sale. What can they do as radiologists at their highest level to impact? So they chose Madrid because Madrid has an extremely high level of cancer and an extremely low level of radiology. And they started out by creating, like most associations, they created a website to try and drum up some support. And they got the support of a local rich millionaire whose wife had been saved by radiology. And he gave them a chunk of money, said, do something big. So they, rather than, as I said, doing a bake sale, they decided to get into the local ecosystem. So they connected with local government, local education, local healthcare, and they also connected with educational establishments and industry. And they tried to work out what they were going to do. And to cut a long story short, they were able to actually establish radiology departments. Just unbelievable. They had the people there. Whether it started there. I'm sure they didn't set them up in 2 or 3 days, but they were able to leave behind a legacy of what could be about 150,000 lives a year saved. Now that's an extraordinary story, but what you see is dedicated people dedicated to their own art who wanted to bring their art to a place that needed it. It's not just going and saying, well, we're a bunch of radiologists, what do you need? They chose their site. They interacted. They found connections where they were, and they were able to contribute to the destination's ecosystem and leave something behind. And that's what they want to do, and that's what the destinations want you to do.
So, was this inspired by them having a conference in Madrid? Is that where the conference connection?
The conference, yeah, it was. They wanted to. Yeah, sorry, this was on the back of their conference. So okay. At their conference, they brought. So part of the program was they went to local schools and taught. They taught about cancer. They brought people into the conference. I mean, it was integrated into their conference and into their presence. So this is really, in terms of associations, this is just totally in the wheelhouse of associations. This is what we live for. This is what our members live for. So in terms of, this is only just one example, though, that this can happen at a conference. But if you have an association that has a local presence somewhere, there's no reason it has to be during a conference. It could be outside of a conference. It could be as part of a program, and it can be outside of education. We're very classically education and information oriented, but now we can actually make direct impact at our highest levels to local communities, and this is something that associations are uniquely set up for. This isn't something that businesses are set up for. Businesses are set up to make money. Right. Associations are set up to make a difference. Mm-hmm. And, classically, we've made a difference by educating our members, making them experts in their field, and allowing them to go out and operate at the highest level in their professions, which makes a difference. And that's what I would call indirect action. But the direct action, the direct impact, is much more a case of the association becoming a platform for its members to shine. Because there's a lot of members out there. I'll tell you another story. there was the European Liver Association, EASL.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to do something too. So listen, they did quite as big a job as Madrid, but as I said, Madrid was extraordinary and will probably never be repeated at that scale. But what they did was they took they wanted to make an impact on the communities who have liver health issues. And there's a group of a particular demographic that wasn't coming to hospitals because they didn't want to deal with being judged for coming in and having their lifestyle, judged, and in the same time they need to have blood tests for their livers. And so what EASL did was they branded a mobile lab, and they took nurses and they drove this mobile lab up and down the coast where the conference was going to be. And people came and got their blood tested, people who wouldn't go to the hospitals. And the health department said to them, look, is there any way we can keep this going for another year? They loved it. It was making a direct impact on the health department's bottom line, and their goals. But what's more important is the members, the nurses who were members of EASL were in touch with EASL and said, this is what we live for. Mm-hmm. This is what, but we don't have a voice, we don't have the finance, and we don't have the reach. But with you, we do. With you, EASL, becoming the platform, we're able to deliver on passion. And passion is what drives associations. Associations are driven by passion. Passionate people need an association as a platform to deliver direct impact to the world. It could be direct impact to their ecosystem in terms of liver health and the people in that ecosystem. It could be, but it could also be just the world at large. And something that's kind of interesting is one of the problems that associations are facing is millennials don't join clubs. Mm-hmm. This is there's a very big change in behavior. When I left school, I headed for the biggest companies I could find. I went and worked my way up to work for HP, and I worked for them for 15 years. And now, I was working with IEEE, an association which is like fifth biggest in the world, quarter of 500,000 members and $500 million in revenue. It's just extraordinary. But millennials are not working that way. They want to be individual contributors, and they want to they want to develop their personal brand. However, what they need is a platform to shine on, and that's a role that associations can play. Is bringing millennials together to solve real problems that they can't solve on their own.
Yes.
Not their own problems, but the world's problems. And millennials are very, very focused on making impact in the world, but they're going to need a platform. Now, suddenly, they don't join associations in order to get the power of knowledge, because they get that on the internet. The power of community, they get that on the internet. But they need a platform. So it seems like the stars are aligning for this, the new generation who is very focused on direct impact, and the fact that associations are in a position to position themselves or reposition themselves at the center of their ecosystems rather than off to one side. If you think about a mountain bike, it has two sets of gears. It has one set under the pedals and it has one set under the back wheel. Mm-hmm. Right now, associations are pretty much positioned under the pedals. They're off to one side of their ecosystem, and the ecosystem comes out and uses them. However, if they were to reposition themselves at the center, at the hub of the wheel, around which is all of the other parts of the ecosystem, the industry, the education establishments, governments, foundations, and the like, they're all around. the associations are uniquely positioned to be able to be enablers,
Mhm.
which is really just another word for platform,
Right.
to solve real problems, both for their ecosystem, but also for the world at large.
Yes. Yes, and I agree. I think those are all really interesting points and expanding out into the area of impact because we do have impact outside of any conference. While we're there, I view conferences, especially the big annual meeting, big annual convention conference, whatever the group calls it, that's a little world that gets created for 2.5 days. But then
Right.
that world disappears and we all go home. And what are we going to do? Uh, so I think having that impact outside of those conferences could be springboards for that. I do think associations, so if we're talking about nonprofit organizations that are associations, meaning membership groups, I found they're always pretty resilient once they get past the panic phase. And there's always panic whenever things change. So everybody loved broadcast facts years ago when we used to communicate that. Isn't that cool? I just put it in once and it goes to 900 people. But then we had social media. Oh, I'm panicking. I can't control what people are saying. And there was a lot of panic about it. There was panic about websites. Well, we got to have one. We don't know what they are, but we need to have one. And then the whole generational divide, which I will just go on the record right here. I've said in conversations with people, I am not a fan of trying to identify an entire group of people because they were born in a certain year. I do know younger generations are different because the world is different for every
Right.
generation.
Of course.
And I often say, everybody after Gen X, they're actually going to do all the stuff we said we were going to do. Like we said we were going to save the world. I think they actually will. And it's because they are motivated by different things.
I agree with you.
And they will join, but you they really need a compelling reason. They're not going to,
Exactly.
it's like you have to join. You can be an attorney and not belong to the American Bar Association. It's not a requirement. You can be a doctor and not belong to the American Medical Association. So what's that compelling reason to do
Right.
that? Now, I want to ask you another question about the impact. So the two wonderful examples you shared already were medical and healthcare related. And so you can very much identify something. We want to bring this service to people to help improve their health. But what about other kinds of associations? Maybe they're in the car industry. So, what kind of an impact could a car industry association, automobile industry association have in the area, that would be similar and long lasting?
So it's funny. I was actually going to go off in a different direction than cars.
Oh, okay.
Um,
We can.
another example is that you tend to find that technologies, let's just use technologies in general, that technologies tend to find themselves coalescing around a certain geographic area.
Mhm.
So magnets, for example, um, the study of magnets, I believe, is very, very focused in like North Virginia, if I'm not mistaken. Please forgive me if I've got it mixed up with something else. But what about a technology or domain organization, not medicals, is I think what you're asking me. Now, if if you are a an association, you can bring together government and education and potential employment into a certain area, and use your conference or use your association platform to try and bring people to a certain area and help the area fund people to move, and people and education establishments to support the research, development, and education of people in that area. So that's just another way, rather than actually solving a public health issue, but there may be an issue around trying to develop a particular technology, to develop a particular profession. You know, in terms of cars, you put me on the spot, but perhaps we can bring engineering expertise into a particular area that is suffering. They talk about the steel areas, talk about areas that have been impacted by changes in the economy that have decimated small cities. I think of Pennsylvania, decimated by the loss of the steel industry. So the question is how can we as associations bring skills, experience, training, and knowledge to areas that need to redevelop themselves and need to and have workforces ready to work? How can we help people through change management? How can we help them through their career journeys? That's another. So, in terms of the car industry, there's a whole bunch of people out there that are not going to be doing the same thing in the car industry that they were, but there's a whole bunch of new world, the world of powertrain and electric batteries, and that's something that we can help people. We can bring to a particular area and help them redevelop their economies. So it doesn't have to be health; it can be economy, it can be education. There's many different flavors that could be put on the platform.
Right. And that's why I wanted to bring that up, because healthcare is, I'm not going to say an easy one, but it's kind of an obvious.
It is an easy one. You're right.
It is an easy one. I mean, healthcare isn't easy, but it's an easy example because
Yes.
radiologists will bring radiology. We're going to give people blood tests for their liver health. And so those things,
Yes.
that is very defined for those organizations and the members. And they can say, yes, this is exactly what we want to be doing to promote our profession and help people. But any industry or any profession can find that way to help people, like you just said. And I think what we want to look for is that longer term impact. Now, the ASAE meeting is coming up in August. And so just a few weeks after this episode airs. And ASAE always organizes some sort of, volunteer activities in that local city, where we are in the area. So, you can help reclaim I'm not saying that's what we're doing in 2024, people. So save the angry postcards. I'm just using examples. So like, you could go work at a shelter for the homeless. You can help feed the hungry, maybe reclaim a park in a neighborhood. And these are things that maybe last for a half a day or a day. But do you believe, not that those things are bad to do, but do you believe those have a long-term impact?
I think I used an expression earlier, which was to give back at the highest level we possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's up to associations to identify the power that they possess. And as you said, and when I said it's easy for the medicals, well, it's easy, right? Liver health. I mean, yes, we can improve liver health.
Right.
The question is how can CAEs at ASAE, how can they, you're one as well. What is it that you have that you can give at your highest level, which is the level that you work at? That's the highest level. What can you bring to an area that comes from your expertise? And the obvious one is to say, oh, well, we'll educate people. That's one thing, but perhaps there is opportunities to go and work in the community, doing a one-day workshop or a one-day meeting with non-profits that can't afford and can't get the skills and experience that 4,000 CAEs sitting in one place can bring. Mm-hmm. Bringing, I think of Snoopy. The doctor is in. Why aren't we? Perhaps we could bring. We could have I can't remember what you call them, where people in the area can bring their problems in to be discussed amongst.
Oh, like a clinic, like a legal
Like a
clinic.
clinic, yeah, like a clinic
Yeah,
for non-profits that have no money and little in the way of resources and little in the way, and have these people give a couple of hours of their time during the conference to do a clinic with a group. And you could have five people, five CAEs in a clinic, with a variety of skills, or you could focus on a particular area. Maybe it's finance, maybe it's strategic planning, maybe it's membership. You could have clinics about those, and people would be able in the area to come in. But you see, what you've got here is what happened in Madrid was they went to Madrid because they knew that was a problem area, and there was people. You actually need to choose and do some research on your environment to say, is this a center of where we can give at the highest level? And it might not be. So that's part of the legacy planning, is to
right.
say, is there a need? Because if we turn up in the middle of a desert where there's no non-profits, what can we offer? Not much. So maybe we should be in Washington, or maybe I don't know, but that's really part of the planning for legacy, is planning that the people there, first of all, that you have all the hooks in place, that you can get to local government, you can get to the non-profit sector in ASE's case, you can get to education establishments. Don't turn up on the day and expect it to happen.
Right.
And that's the destinations are embracing legacy,
Mhm.
and what their job is to give you all the hooks and connections that you need when you plan to go there.
Right.
And that's on the destination to do that. You shouldn't have to go there and do it yourself.
Right. And you can always reach out to the local CVB and get that help. I recently had Frank Gaynor on the podcast, and he talked about how they managed their meeting in Orlando, Florida. And he talked about all the outreach he did to the CVB and other people in the area to bring that to make the meeting a success, and in the middle of a lot of political tension, and make it happen and make it comfortable for everybody. So that's definitely a thing. And I do think, as a CAE, I will jump on that. I think it is important that we leave our own individual legacy to lift up our profession overall. So
Right.
we should be modeling ethical behavior. We should be modeling professional behavior. We should be mentoring the next generation of nonprofit management leaders. We should be doing that. And I'll give you a very recent example. I was just earlier in July, I volunteered to lead what they call a lunch and learn at the Nonprofit Alliance, of which I am also a member. And they have a wonderful internship program called Leading Edge. And they're one of the only groups that has an internship program. And the whole point of it is to educate people in college about what nonprofit management is, and that it is a choice for a career path, because so many of us just fell into it, not knowing what it was. And so I came and I shared that information and knowledge with them, and answer some questions for them, and emphasize the importance of ethics, not just in our profession, but in our everyday life. And so what we do as an individual can really be impactful as well. And it's one of the things that, as many people know, I have an education program for people getting ready for the CAE exam, or who are looking to get continuing education for the renewal applications. And that is one of the things we consistently emphasize, is what are you going to do after you pass the exam? And once you have the CAE, how are you modeling that behavior going forward? So we are about helping people prepare for the exam, but we're really helping them prepare for what comes after that for the rest of their career, and how they're going to inspire other people, because that's really what we need to do. It's my opinion, our profession is in a very precarious position right now. A lot of people don't know what it is. We still have people complaining about, nobody knows what I do for a living. Uh, there are a lot of reasons that we're still in that situation, which I won't go into now, but we need to educate ourselves about how to promote our own profession. And I'm an advocate for our profession. I speak out consistently about what we need to do and why, because there will be no legacy conferencing if there are no nonprofit organizations.
Right. No, I agree with you. I think the indirect action of supporting our executives and our mentoring, which will bring the next generation into the industry. I think that's valuable. It's no question. I think we do a lot of it already, but I think when I talk about legacy, I'm talking about actually doing it rather than getting people ready to do it. And it's actually to make associations used to and get the flavor for actually making a real measurable difference, not educating other people to make a real measurable difference. And that excites me. It's been pretty, legacy conferencing really was probably one of the first things that ever excited me in my work, because most of the time, especially as a consultant, you're really just oiling the wheels, making the machine go faster, making it better, making it wiser, but actually delivering to the end user of our associations, whether it be, as I said, in nonprofit management, or whether it be in helping people with legal problems in a certain area, whether it be helping them people who are enabling people who are technical people, but really leaving something behind that they can say, this year we did this, and the people at the destination say, this year we got this. And I think that's something that we need to get the flavor for. I think sometimes associations are very good at jumping on to claim the successes of their members, even when they really haven't had much to do with it. I think what
Point. And I'm just going to jump in here. I think you and I are in agreement on the legacy. An association cannot leave a legacy if it doesn't have people who understand the
absolutely,
importance of that. And so I do think we have to start with the people, because it's like we say in our ethics course, ethical people create ethical organizations. So an impactful association is created by people who understand the need for that impact and working with the members to make it
absolutely.
happen.
You can't do one without the. You can't deliver with an organization that doesn't value impact. I mean, it's just not going to happen. So yes, I totally. You need both.
Yeah.
But my worry is that if we only focus on the organization, we're going to just go into a loop like we're in right now, which is we won't break out of it. We're just focusing on the members, focusing on ourselves. I think we need to focus on it's widening our purview and saying we need to think about the problems and how we can solve the problems within our ecosystems, and then how we can expand that to solve general problems for the world.
Well, and I agree with that. And unfortunately, we have to wrap up for now. Great conversation so far. But I will say, I agree with you. We can't be in the fishbowl of our own organization. And that's why elevating the profession overall is crucial. Because if our profession is elevated, then we know the importance of it. We know what needs to be done. And we know the importance of not looking just at our own group, but looking across the profession as a whole, what the whole profession is supporting and promoting and encouraging that in the planning of having that impact. So, well, this has been, again, great. Loved having you on. Great conversation back and forth. Wonderful examples. But Matty, I like to ask my guest, what is the one thought you'd like the audience to take away today? And then how can they get in touch with you if they'd like to follow up and talk with you more on this?
I'll just repeat what I said before. I think we have to realize that we can't, and what you said as well, we can't just look in our associations to the narrow group of people that are our members anymore. We need to broaden that. We need to broaden our appeal. We need to broaden our markets, and we need to make a real measurable difference. Let's make it competition between all the EDs of all the associations, and they can, their trophy on their wall will be, this year I did this, that year I did that, and each year they're going to claim a bigger impact. So let's break ourselves out of our fish bowls. Let's start to think of ourselves as platforms, EDs, as ambassadors, and become the central point of our ecosystems that we can then act at the highest level. I think that's probably my biggest message is how can we ourselves act at the highest level, and how can we allow our members to act at the highest level? That's what I'd like to see.
Great.
And if you want to talk to me more, you can speak to me at Matty at whatnow.consulting, or you can find me on LinkedIn. One of my tags is Strategy Matty, Matty. Or if you can't find me, call Cecilia and she'll put you in touch.
I will definitely do that. Yes, dude, that's a great point. Yes, I can always connect people with you. That's wonderful. Okay, great conversation. A lot for us all to think about as we look to our future and what impact are we as individuals and as a community making on the world around us. So I want to thank my guest, Matty Rubenstein, for bringing his passion and energy to this topic. And hopefully Matty will be back to talk with us again in the future.
Thank you so much, Cecilia. It's been great to be on, and thank you for giving me a platform to share my passion with all the associations out there.
Wonderful. Yes, happy to do it. I'm also very passionate about what we do. So always love talking to a fellow passionate person. So, well, we have to go rogue for now, but we'll be back next time with another exciting episode. So again, don't forget to subscribe or follow us on your favorite podcast service so you don't miss any of our future episodes. If you'd like to learn more about Rogue Tulips Consulting and how we can help your organization bloom outside the box, check out our website, roguetulips.com. If you are looking for CAE education or continuing education credits this fall, our registration opens tomorrow, July 23rd, and our fall session starts the first week in September. So check out our education page on the website for that. So, well, that's all for this week. On behalf of Matty and myself, we'll see you next time.